I don't know if everybody here realizes, but he's been in, say, 40-some films.
Yeah.
And you've probably seen him in more films than you could count. In the last few weeks, it seems like. I mean, you've been in all kinds of things. But you made the transition to New York. You did theater. How did you get started in film?
My brother, who's a line producer in movies, saw that play and said, let's make it into a movie. And so I was spending a lot of time on movie sets. And that, along with my brother's encouragement, convinced me I look back on it now and wonder what the hell I was thinking. But it convinced me that maybe I could direct a movie if I wrote it.
Tell a little bit about what you learned from the films you've made before that you were able to apply to this film, and maybe talk a little bit about some of the directors that you've worked with that have inspired you or given you some ideas that you've also applied.
The greatest lesson that I ever had about directing from my life as an actor was in two films that I almost did back to back. There was one movie I did in between them. But essentially, I worked with Terrence Malick on a movie called The Thin Red Line. Let's try the scene, a 3-page dialogue scene with no dialogue. Action. And literally do that. And then I did Oh Brother, Where Art Thou with the Coen brothers. Here's the way it's going to be shot. It's utterly traditional in approach, and they never deviate from it. It didn't matter. An atomic bomb could have gone off, and they were going to shoot exactly what they had prepped to shoot. No deviation. And if they, not only was there never any redistribution of lines and never any improvisation with coverage, but if you were going to change a definite article or a participle or the placement of a verb in a sentence, you would ask.
If you didn't hear that, he was asking which part of the production process Tim likes the best.
Absolutely pre-production. I love pre-production. I love moving to a location, and I've always only shot on location. I love moving to a location, allowing it to seep into me, and I have an enormous affection and gratitude and admiration of production design. It's one of my favorite. I like it as much, if not more, than photography. And my background is, even before acting, is in photography. So I really should love photography most of all, because it's what I've been doing more of my life than any other element of filmmaking.
Question is, as the director who's also acting, were you ever not in charge, or were you always in command of both sides?
Well, I think you're always in command whether you know it or not. Edward was in Fight Club. All right? He also had, in American History X, Edward pretty much has fights in the majority of his movies. His characters do. So I've got an actor on my set who's worked with some extraordinary directors and fight choreographers on fights. Now, what do I need from him? I need from him, when he's beating up the Fuller brother in the 7-Eleven, I need a really brutal, nasty fight. He's got more experience with it than I do. Am I going to come in as a totalitarian and cut him off and predetermine how it's going to work? Or am I going to, as the director, have the confidence to say, Edward, let's talk about what you want to do here. A director says, let's talk about what you want to do here. That's just what you do. You do not come on set, because it is not in your interest, with really experienced, interesting people who can bring nuance to your work and what you want, and cut them off before you hear their ideas.